is going on, Wolfpack Nation? Welcome to another episode of Tuffy Talk here. First of all, I do guys say this is definitely a one that I think is a more continuation on the excitement that we have just experienced on Black Friday, but not only just Black Friday, this weekend in general has turned into quite something special for sure, for the happiness of us and the sadness of some others, which obviously we'll definitely talk into a little bit there, but you got to take all the excitement while we can, for sure. It doesn't happen to us NC State fans very often, so you got to enjoy it while you can. But first of all, the one thing which I do guys say is that basically what these episodes are going to be is basically a continuation based off of the Tuffy Talk Live Show that we just did on Sunday night. So if you have not seen the Tuffy Talk Live Show from Sunday night yet, make sure you go check that out first. It's not necessarily a where if you didn't see it that you won't know what. Sorry, did I skip out there? I'm sorry, y'all.
No,
sorry. But anyway, just jumping back in again. So so it's not one of those things where if you didn't see it, the live show, you won't know what's going on here. But it's just kind of a an all-in-one thing kind of deal. So basically what we're going to be doing here today is finishing off with our tweets of the week, talking about some men's and women's basketball, talking about some other topics and things like that as well. So again, this should be a lot of fun here and looking forward to getting to it. But the one topic which I wanted to go ahead and discuss, because this was something that I know Joe Gilio and Joe Ovies have talked about a ton today, which I want to discuss with you guys, which is obviously the planning of the flag by the players at UNC. And I see, it's kind of funny. So let me kind of give a little bit of background. So obviously Joe Gilio and Joe Ovies, who are both in state grads, basically we're making
supposedly
we're making points saying that basically what goes around comes around, and basically it's like, you shouldn't be doing that, because then you're going to be expecting it in return. Two things I would say to that. First of all, is I would say Drake May started it back in middle of September, not February, September, when he brought us up out of nowhere. And it's like, well, okay, you called us out, so you started, but also too, second of all, we've beaten them 4 out of the last 5 years in Kenan Stadium too. So it's not like exactly. So it's like, I mean, we have owned it in the last 5 years. We have owned it 4 out of 5. Okay. So and the one that we lost Devin Leary the week before in that gruesome injury against Duke.
Yep.
So you could argue that if we had Devin Leary for that game, could things have been different? Maybe not. Who knows? But so I want to kind of get y'all's thoughts on that, because obviously that's a big topic from this week.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I mean, honestly, I think it's kind of a silly take on it. Yeah. Personally, I think it's kind of, I don't want to say it's a stupid take. I mean, I'm not saying that, but like, I get where they're coming from in terms of you better fully expect them to give right back to you if it comes, but that's a rivalry game.
They got to beat us first.
Right. You got to win. Yeah. And you can't prove they're going to be like, the record shows that State's winning this record and owns this record lately. But I just think it's part of a rivalry game. Like I did see that clip, his shot of Joe this morning, I think it was. And he goes basically, well, you should act like you've been there before. I'm like, okay, sure. Maybe for any other game, but this is a rivalry game against a school you hate. You absolutely cannot stand, and they cannot stand you. And you should I don't care if you've beaten them 100 times. You should enjoy it just as much as every time before. And I mean,
there's a reason they call it a rivalry. Anytime you can take a shot at your rival, you do it. I mean, that's what a rivalry is. If you're not doing it, it's not a rivalry. It's just a game. So like, it's kind of gamesmanship back and forth. And you can't tell me that Carolina has never come into Carter Finley and done some of the same antics that we just did.
They did.
Exactly
they
right.
Totally did.
Exactly right.
Came in and kicked all over the center field and all that, spit on it, whatever.
Yeah. So, look, I like Joe. I like both Joes. I mean, they got a job to do, but not the take I would have taken on that one.
No. But and Michael, before I get your thoughts on it, the one thing which I do want to add was I was actually pretty shocked by actually the comments on that Joe Gilio take was actually mostly saying, no, that's a terrible take, which honestly I was kind of seeing a lot of like, we shouldn't do that. Like, we were lucky to even be there. We lost to Louisville the week before, blah, blah, blah. But most of them are like, yeah, no, that's a terrible take. It's a rivalry game. What are you talking about? So Michael, go ahead, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the same page. I mean, it is what it is. Like you said, UNC has done it before, and if UNC wins in Raleigh next year, I fully expect them to do the same thing, and that's kind of just how it goes. I mean, right?
You eat it.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
you eat it.
You don't want to.
I
You
mean,
don't want them to do it, then beat them.
Well, I will say this: I'm not. It doesn't. There is a spot, a part of me that when you see a rival team plant the flag at center field, there is a part of me, I'll be honest, that doesn't like that. But I don't really care because you have earned it, and it's a rivalry game. And particularly the argument that bothered me with Joe when he was like, "Act like you've been there before." If it was, let's say you had been beating Wake Forest, right? Say it's Wake Forest, right? You'd beaten them. You're not going to freak out every time you've beaten them, or Duke, or maybe even Clemson. I think that's a fair argument. But when it's Carolina, like
All
you
bets are
hate
off.
them. Yeah, it's fair game. Enjoy it, love it as much as you do every time you win, and make it as fun as possible. So
I mean, that's kind of what sports is about, right? Like just and I get the whole sportsmanship, and that's what leads to fights and future endeavors and iterations of the series. But planting the flag on the logo of your opponent is as old as time. I mean, it's just kind of a symbolism of we own you, at least for the next 365 days. Baker did it a couple years ago when he was with OU. Now, I will say Joe's take about planting it into artificial turf. Yeah, I mean, obviously you're not going to quote unquote plant it, but I don't remember who said it on our live stream last night, but that take was, planting it in fake glasses or fake grass is as fake as their Amfram classes. Great take, like the greatest take. So look, just deal with it. Look, it's going to come back to us at some point. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Sure.
And it's fine.
And again, too, it just goes back to again my other thing as well, saying that again we've won the last 4 out of the last 5, and then even at Carter Finley we've won 5 of the last 8. So again, it just comes back to that again. It's not only the fact that we won, but it's also the fact that it makes sense from a metaphorical perspective, but again, honestly, to me, it kind of makes me laugh because all those UNC fans that say in-state's not our rival, I'm hoping that just kind of honestly pisses them off to the point where they finally say, you know what, in-state's rival, I hate them. Like I want that, like because the thing too that pissed me off too was like during the week, when I was we were putting out tweets, giving UNC a hard time, like putting out like the meta, like the picture with the wolf holding the ram by the neck or whatever, and people saying, we don't really have much room to talk, or they're going to the championship, we're not. I'm like, so that just means that just because we've lost the last 2 games means that I just have to ignore that this is a rivalry game coming up here, like. What is that? Like, oh yeah, you're right, we stink, I'm just going to sit here and just wait for the rivalry game. Like, no, it doesn't matter if we're 0-11 heading into UNC. No matter what, I'm going to talk so much smack because at the end of the day, if we can beat them, then the season already takes a huge turn up. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I think for me, the downplaying of the rival, we're going to the ACC championship game, all that is just a deflection of like they look, you didn't get up for it as a fan base.
If that was all that matters, they would have, not played Drake May, not played their starters this week.
Right.
But no.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sure. As long as it doesn't become something like the Michigan State thing, where that just becomes violent, I don't care. Like, I mean, I think it should be all funny. I mean, like one thing nobody's talking about that I saw a tweet about it. Apparently, after the win, Corey Durden went around the entire stadium and waved to all the fans as he left. He literally walked around the entire stadium and waved at the UNC fans goodbye. Like, is that bad sportsmanship? I think it's fair game. It's a rivalry game.
I think he was just telling him to drive safe home.
Right. He's being considerate. Yeah.
But again, the thing that I love more than anything, once again, we were talking about this on the live show, is that again, that even guys like Cyrus Fagan and Corey Durden, who have only been a part of this rivalry for a couple of years now, have full blown
embraced it,
bought into the hatred of UNC just as much as any other player out there. Like that, if that doesn't speak enough to the rivalry, but also to the culture that Doran is building, the fact that Doran has even got all the guys to buy into every single word that Doran says about UNC. Like it's hilarious. I love it. And again, it just goes. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that the point that you're bringing up that you're not bringing up is they're not even from North Carolina. So
Right.
it's one thing to come from another program, but still understand the rivalry. They've only witnessed this for a few years, and they're like, bring it. Like, we're all in on this. But they also get it too, going Florida State. I mean, they've got some great rivals, there at Florida State.
Sure.
So I think, once you've experienced a rivalry, you can embrace any version of a rivalry.
Yep, absolutely. So with that being said, we're going to finally jump into some tweets of the week here. Starting off here with our first one here, actually talking a little bit basketball here. And this is one which I know, Macon, I really wanted to kind of get your thoughts on. But for those listening, it's from at ACC_state, saying, to the state fans that wanted Archie Miller for our last hire, Miller had a 4-year gig at Indiana where he had a losing record with 1 NIT appearance. He's now 2-5 at Rhode Island with terrible losses. Not sure if Keats is the guy, but Archie definitely stinks. Yeah. And this is one where, I mean, to me, honestly, if it were me, I would take away the 2-5 at Rhode Island part, just because of the fact it's like, well, it's Rhode Island. I mean, I think any coach who goes into a Rhode Island program within his first 7 games, more likely is probably not going to be doing that well off the start, just because of the history of that program he's taking over. But the Indiana part is the thing where the part where I think it's interesting, especially too because of the fact where, I mean, he did us dirty. I mean, for the lack of terms, I mean, he basically called us out and basically said, nah, I'm good. And I mean, basically fully publicly said it. So, but Macon, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, hindsight's 2020, right? So it's easy to say this is obviously a bad coaching hire for anybody, but I mean, I just don't ever really see and maybe there is one out there, but is there really a good coaching hire that's happened recently that has been a alum of a program? I mean, you think of Scott Frost at Nebraska, you think of Indy State can think of Sidney Lowe and as the easy one. Obviously wanted to hire Archie
Michigan.
Miller, but it could have been worse. Yeah, but that hasn't really gone
the
so
jury's
well over there
still
either.
out. The jury's still out on Hubert Davis.
Yeah, I mean, now that's true. He might be the exception there with his first year. But and I guess you could argue the same thing with Duke's new coach, right? He's
Shire
there. Shire.
No, but
I know that
more often,
Buzz Williams has gone back to Texas A&M. More often than not, that doesn't really work out very well. But the fact that we're kind of having to come up with some names here, those kind of things really don't work out very well. And for the fans who just wanted it for the nostalgia, I think that's fine. I will say, we've discussed about last year or two about Kevin Keats, and his one really good year was his first year, and then everything has seemed to descend from there. Now this year is looking really promising. The early returns are promising, but I mean, I don't know how his resume compares to Kevin Keats. I'll have to look that up at State, but I mean, I wouldn't imagine it's, I don't know. I don't think it's a thing where Archie Miller was like we proved you wrong kind of thing. I just honestly, when he kind of kicked State to the curb and then as if he's better than State.
Spurned him publicly. I mean, there's a difference of doing it behind the scenes and just coming straight out, and both the Miller brothers for that matter, right? And we kind of gave them both their starts in coaching, and so just to be spurned that way. What I would say about Archie is he did have a good successful run at Dayton before he went to Indiana. He had some tournament appearances and had a couple good squads, and I think he won at least one A10 title there.
Here, and I got the stats here. I'm looking it up here now.
Go for it.
According to Wikipedia, so take it for what it's worth. We're going to go just off of, you want to just compare Archie Miller's at Indiana to Keats at State. Is that fair comparison, you think, a little bit?
Yeah, because I mean, you're talking P5 programs, right? So
okay.
I think
so let's do that. So in 4 seasons at Indiana, Archie Miller has a 53.6 win percentage, and he was 42.9% in conference. So he was sub 43% in conference. Kevin Keats is just slightly better, guys, and that's through 6 years. 58.2% win percentage overall, and a 46.2% in conference. Again, you're talking about 43 compared to 46, and you're talking about 53, Archie Miller to Kevin Keats
Keat.
58. I mean, it's not that much different. It's a little better. You know what I'm saying? But it's just it's not blow you away. I mean, if it were 10% better, that would be a different story, right?
What I would be kind of curious about is the level of recruiting that they're doing, right? And kind of with that being said, is we had the whole time under Keats, we've been under the cloud of under investigation with the NCAA, and so
Good point.
that significantly hamstrings your recruiting, because you're getting, we talked about the Carolina recruiting and the negative recruiting against State. I can guarantee you everyone negatively recruited against State with like, oh, well, they're under investigation. They're not going to the tournament, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you put an asterisk on that. Like, yes, their records are the same, but let's be fair. Indiana has not been good since the last 15, 20 years in basketball.
Night.
Yeah.
Every night, yeah. That's what I was thinking.
But the programs are very similar in history. I mean, if you go back and look at it with national championships and time frames of relevancy, you could definitely compare, and you can definitely say, yeah, these. If you were to give me a blind resume, I wouldn't be able to pick the difference out.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And let's actually take a couple minutes too, since we're definitely going to be touching on some men's basketball tweets here, and talk about obviously what Keats did at the Bad Boy Mowers Battle for Atlantis.
Bad Boy Mowers
in the Bahamas. Yeah, obviously, I think that we can all agree it was nothing less of pretty daggone impressive for sure. I mean, obviously losing.
Speaking of beating Dayton.
Before we continue, I want to take a quick second to tell you about our sponsor, Flatlands Jessup Insurance Group, that has your whole world covered, with agents in 5 offices throughout eastern North Carolina to help you decide how much coverage you need. Offering policies for home and auto, recreational vehicles, commercial, crop, health, life, and employee benefits. They are able to combine options to find a comprehensive solution that works for you. Flatlands Jessup protects the things you love so you can spend less time worrying and more time enjoying them. Find them on Facebook and Instagram at Flatlands Jessup. You can also visit their webpage at www.flatlandsjessup.com. So please make sure to go and check them out. Losing to number 3 Kansas 80-74, beating Dayton 76-64, and then beating Manny Bates and the Butler Bulldogs, I think is their
Bulldogs,
mascot.
Yep.
Yeah, Bulldogs 76-61. So beat them by 15 points.
And Manny was a non-factor.
Manny was a non-factor, and honestly, DJ Burns and Dusan Mohorchik were both hands and tails more impressive than Manny was that game. Not to say like, oh, Dusan and DJ are better than Manny. I'm just saying that at the end of the day, when they faced each other, our guys won. Simple as that. Like,
literally,
that's all we're saying there. So, but yeah. So I mean, Michael. I mean, to me, I think everything you wanted to see from a Keats squad, seeing many different guys get involved. Jarkel Joner had many signs of impressiveness. Casey Morcell, obviously Big T was, a little bit, shooter off at times, but once we got him in that, he made some big plays. DJ Burns is a guy that really starts to come off as a guy that not only is a guy that can score, but man, he can dish the ball beautifully as well. I mean, there's guys all over the court that have been very impressive. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so starting with that Kansas game, I mean, Kansas just shot crazy well from 3 in the first half. I think they were 8 of 11 in the first half.
It was
and
unreal.
We actually did not end up shooting that well. I mean, we were under 40% on field goal percentage. So the fact that we only lost by 6 to that game, to them, the number 3 team, it was impressive. And we had I think we cut it to 2 with like 2 minutes
under
left.
5.
So.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I was impressed with that one, and it's like, okay, well, mate, that was our first real test of the season, so it was good, but then it was like, okay, was that just one game? And then to come out the next 2 nights and beat Dayton and Butler both by double digits, it was really impressive. The two big guys that you mentioned played really well in both games. I mean, I think that's been our biggest upgrade there at the 5 position, because we were basically getting nothing from the 5 position last year in any game, and now you're getting
or the one
very solid production,
or the one.
The only thing we were getting from the 5 was fouls.
Yeah. Well, and let me ask you this too, Macon, as well, because one of the biggest critiques that came after the Kansas game is a lot of State fans saying, Oh, it's the same old offensive scheme from last year. Just same old ISO ball, just doing nothing different, nothing, unique at all. But to me, I couldn't disagree more. To me, I felt like that there was so many different sets involved, a whole lot of, more than just the simple ISO, ball screens that you saw last year between two guys. But I mean, I want to kind of get
Yeah.
your thoughts on that, Macon.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I do think that Keats in this offense, they do run a lot of one-on-one sets. I
Yeah.
do think they do that.
Yeah.
So I kind of get where people are coming from. What I don't see with Keats' offenses is like, hey, there was a possession there against Kansas where it went back and forth, back and forth. They were, both teams are running up and down the court. Keats does not call like a, hey, slow down, let's run play number 2. You don't really see that kind of direction coming from the head coach on the bench. Whereas my point there is Bill Self did. He kind of slowed his team down. I can't remember if they got a bucket or not, but they have some set plays they're running. You could tell there were some set plays at times, and it's probably just Kevin Keats. Probably not. Maybe he's not calling out, hey, run play number 2 or play number 3. There were some plays there, I think, towards the end where they try to get Turquavian a shot. They kind of had like the elevators door where the player comes up from the baseline and runs right up the middle, and there's two, post kind of guys there blocking, and it kind of supposed to give your shooter an open shot there. I kind of saw that some plays there, but I just think this team to me has better pieces, and they're not struggling with health issues. Remember last year we lost Manny Bates game 1, game 2, game 1 I think it was.
Game 1.
Yeah.
You lost Casey.
Yeah, Casey kind of was about this time last season. But you didn't have the kind of shooters that you had with Casey right now, who's taking a huge leap. You didn't have, if you're talking about Jarkel Joyner versus Cam Hayes, I was excited about Cam Hayes when he committed, but I don't think it's a competition right now. I mean, and
No.
so you're getting points from those guys, and if you get anything out of Jack Clark, you get anything out of DJ Burns, who looks like a consistent 8, a walking 7-8 points a night, if you want him to. That's really big. And I'll tell you a guy who really impresses me in a small way is Dusan Mahorchik. It's more so that he doesn't blow you away with what he's doing offensively, but his rebounding presence, and I will say this too, along with the guards' ability to rebound, the guards are really rebounding really well on those few, I guess it's 7 games now. But Dusan having that post presence who's willing to rebound and get you 4, 5, 6, 7 points a night, maybe more than that, that's huge for this team. And, making sure the opposing team doesn't get a second chance shot. Is collecting points off the board to give you second chance points. I think it's underrated what he means for this team, but I kind of see. I personally, I kind of do. I think there are some plays you can see there. I think some fans are not giving enough credit to Keats, but I also get where they're coming from. I would like to see some more run plays when there are times they're needed, but that's honestly Kevin Keats' style. He's not going to change. He wants his players. You see the way he recruits. He wants guys who run, who are fast in transition, and are playmakers, and that's what he's got with Turquavian. That's what he's got with Jarkel Joyner now. You can feed
Jack
to a
Clark
guy like
can be the
DJ.
hammer.
Jack Clark can do that too. Yeah. I mean, when you got Jack Clark and Casey Marcel running down and getting the corners to shoot with a guy like Turquavian or Jarkel there, if Jarkel and Turquavian are driving in and they can kick out or they can score if they want to, that is some. There's not many backcourts that can do that, guys. That's just the reality in the ACC basketball this year. And I would even say the country. I don't think there's many backcourts that can do that. So Kansas just beat State just because they were better. And they were just the better team. And that's fine. That's okay. State clearly handled business the rest of the 2 games they had. So,
yep. Well, and one stat I want to throw in, and Greg, I'll let you jump into this, is that a lot of people talked about free throws. But so far this season, we're 93 out of 122, which is 76.2% from the free throw line, which and to kind of compare that, our opponents are 66.1%, so about 10% decrease in free throw percentage, just to kind of just to kind of say, I mean, we're definitely right now above average in terms of making free throws right now.
Yeah. And I think both Jarkel and Turquavian are both like high 80s, low
Yep.
90s at the free throw, which is what you want in your guards because they're going to have the ball late in the games getting fouled.
Yep.
So kind of my takeaway from this, and I mean, you guys have hit on a lot of things I was going to kind of touch on, but the one thing for me is the response. Yeah, we did go out and lose to number 3 Kansas, but it's what we did the next 2 games. I don't remember if you remember after Purdue last year who we played, and I have it right here. We played Richmond,
Yeah.
A-10 team, just like Dayton, right?
Mhm.
And then we played Wright State, very similar to a Butler, just a little bit lower than them. We lost both of those games. So,
Wow.
you know, the way we came back and responded after a tough loss to Kansas and came back and rebounded and beat the next team convincingly, that tells me a lot that this isn't your same little brothers team from last year. So
Yeah.
No, this is a team, especially when you look at the rest of the ACC right now. But just so you know, I think Louisville and Florida State are combined 1-13 right now.
no, I think
As
they won
crazy as that is to believe.
two.
Okay, 2.
They won-
Okay,
heck-
sorry, 2.
Heck, you should throw Syracuse in there. They're not.
Yeah.
They're not on better right now. So
No, they're
No,
3-3 or
exactly.
3-4.
And then you know, our little brothers down the road went 1-2 over the weekend. You know, so
But you bring up a good point.
So,
You bring
yeah.
up a good point, Leighton. Everyone in the ACC minus State has a bad loss so far.
I think UVA.
True.
Is, so
Oh yeah, you're right.
UVA's
They're
done
undefeated.
well.
They're
And
they're
I will say
undefeated.
that.
Good point, Michael.
UVA plays Michigan, I think, tonight or tomorrow. That'll be a
Mm-hmm.
good game. I think. Side out, UVA has one of the most boring. It's one of the most boring teams to watch because they move so slow on offense.
I'd rather watch paint dry.
But
Yeah.
they're effective. So, but
Absolutely.
yeah,
And they got a national championship in the last 3 years or 5 years, whatever it is.
right. I'm looking up here. So
Exactly.
count the math here. Louisville is 0-6.
Oh, I thought they had one.
They're 0-6. Florida State is 1-7. So that's
Yep.
1-13.
So you're right.
Right.
You're right, Leighton. My apologies. My apologies.
1-13, and then
Okay.
Syracuse is 3-3. So that's 4-16.
4-16. 4-16.
Yeesh.
And
That's three programs that put a lot of chips into that men's basketball basket for sure.
Yeah.
yeah.
So-
And I haven't looked where they were preseason ranked compared to State, but I would be willing to bet they were probably higher than us.
I would probably guess that, but yeah.
So you made,
All right.
you made a comment here. I want to make sure I clarify. I was looking at some of these schedules. You said that about every other team has a bad loss in the schedule. One team I don't see them having a bad loss yet is I actually don't think Duke's had a bad loss yet.
Yeah, Purdue's
they
good.
lost-
Good. Yeah, Purdue and Kansas, right? That's their
they
2
lost to
losses.
Purdue and Kansas.
Yeah, you're right. My apologies.
Well,
Yeah.
Who has Wake Forest played? Does anybody know the answer to that question?
They had
Nobody
one loss.
significant. I don't think it's
They have one loss, and it is to Loyola Marymount. So yeah, that's a bad
which
loss.
one?
Yeah.
There's like 20 of them.
Yeah. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, State is right now, at least on the score app, they're third in the ACC. They just need to continue. Now, I will tell you this, at this William Mary game, guys, it's Pittsburgh. So
Yeah,
ACC play
ACC
kind of
game,
throw in
yeah.
there really quick.
Mhm.
That's a game State needs to win. So
Yep.
Keep it
Once
going.
again, we're recording this on Monday night, so by the time this comes out, we've already played William and Mary, but this will be before.
When did we play
William
William and
Mary's
Mary?
tomorrow.
Oh, okay. All right. So
Tomorrow.
that's okay.
Tomorrow.
That's what we
Tuesday
scheduled
night.
in place of. Gotcha.
Piss Friday. Yep.
Gotcha.
So yeah. So with that being said, we're gonna take a pause right there, y'all. We will get to some more tweets of the week. Obviously, we didn't get to only got to one on this one, but obviously we wanted to make sure we went ahead and touched on men's basketball before we covered some men's basketball tweets, which we were going to get to here. So with that being said, just as a reminder, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you're notified on all your devices whenever we go live with any of our episodes, with any of our watch parties, with any of our live streams, our Tuffy Talk Live shows, which you will not want to miss out on. And also, too, if you enjoy this episode, if you wouldn't mind giving us that like button, we'd really appreciate that. And also to give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram at Tuffy Talk Now. Thank you all so much, and we'll see y'all soon. Go Pack, y'all.